Making friendos. Like most of us who watch the movie No Country for Old Men, I have often wondered if it was realistically plausible for a movie villain, Anton Chigurh, to construct an improvised shotgun suppressor that would actually work, or if this was just some kind of science fiction. FYI, disclaimer, I am an 07 FFL and SOT, so it is legal for me to manufacture, test, etc. NFA firearms and suppressors. This video is presented as entertainment commentary on the movie prop gun in No Country for Old Men, and whether or not that prop would actually be a viable solution in real life. This video does not instruct or encourage anyone from DIY manufacturing of civilians. Furthermore, this video does not instruct viewers on how or where they could purchase the Spec Ops Gear Garbage Rod 12 suppressor when it's ready. All we're doing in this video is testing a movie prop to see how realistic it would be in real life. Shout out to Griffith Guns, who did make a Friendo suppressor for his YouTube channel. Unfortunately, though, Griffith's was a one of one, and he didn't want to sell it to me, but I wanted one. I'm also aware of Micah Mayfield's version of the Friendo, and I looked into buying one of the ones that he featured, but Micah's version of the Friendo is a limited edition $3,000 custom Benelli with a factory suppressor that is sold as a combo, and while I'm sure that Micah's Friendo is a high-quality product, it doesn't really scratch the itch for an affordable, low-fidelity shotgun suppressor like in the movie that would also work reliably. Something about it being $3,000 just kind of made it not really what I wanted. This video is a proof of concept, but I'm already working on the Garbage Rod 12 version 3.0 that will deliver 5 things to the commercial market. 1. Cheap to make. 2. Reliable. 3. Close or beating competitors' weight. 4. Easy to mount on anyone's shotgun. And 5, and most importantly, fun. Anyway, let's get into it. The first thing I needed for this video are some test mules. So I took a chance on a rare Benelli M4 factory SPS breaching shotgun because factory threaded SPS with thick barrels are not very common. I'm also using a 24-inch Beretta 1301 comp paired with a YHM suppressor adapter. On the Benelli M4, I applied heat, torque, and literally prayer, and I managed to remove the factory muzzle brake, and I found that by divine blessing, the factory Benelli external barrel threads perfectly match the YHM Victra 12 shotgun suppressor with its 7/8 by 24 threads. So that means the YHM Victra 12 can thread with no adapter necessary onto the thread pattern on the Benelli shotgun. Interesting. Some additional test mules for this project include a Marlin 4570 guide gun and, interestingly, a Ladies' Home Companion, yes, that's its real name, version of the infamous and objectively terrible Street Sweeper. The Street Sweeper is also chambered in 4570, but I'm working on potentially getting a 12-gauge version for testing as well, which I expect to also be terrible. So when we're reverse engineering a movie prop suppressor, it's good to have a control group. So I acquired the Victra 12 shotgun suppressor from YHM, so I'd have a baseline to compare my success or failure to. The next concern was ammo. I was curious about slug performance, and I noticed that 4570 is actually very similar to shotgun slugs in terms of velocity and projectile weight. I started testing a lot of different shotgun ammo to get one that was subsonic, and I ended up settling on Federal Subsonic Birdshot as a base round. Shotgun suppressors are comparatively new and less common in the marketplace, so there's only a few subsonic shotguns around on the commercial market anyway. As shotgun suppressors become more common, I do expect ammo manufacturers will catch up with this new demand. If this video series is popular, I will do some ballistic testing on various suppressed shotgun ammo in the future. Let's talk about the control group. At first I was kind of disappointed with the factory Victra 12 shotgun suppressor's performance. Perhaps predictably, it sounds like a quieter shotgun, but honestly I had hoped for better performance. But after some more research, it sounds like the Victra is similar to the performance seen from other shotgun cans, and it turns out that shotguns are actually kind of hard to suppress. With subsonic loads, the suppressed shotgun was a bit louder than subsonic 300 Blackout out of an AR, with a muted thud that still sounds very much like a quieter shotgun, It's still kind of poppy and louder than you might want. The weight of a shotgun suppressor took some time for me to get used to. At this point, I'm used to short and nimble shotguns, like the Ithaca 37 that I featured in another video, among many other in the SBS category. But in time, and with a little bit of practice, I did get to where I could manage the suppressed shotgun reasonably well, and I actually kind of like them now. So is a suppressed shotgun even worth it? Oh yeah, it's worth it. If you're shooting a lot, you'll still want to wear ear protection, but for lower round count hunting, or just mag dumping in trash, shotgun suppressors are fun and interesting, and they definitely take the edge off of the noise. The added weight of a suppressor is something to consider, and it'll take you some time to get used to, but after a while, it's fine. Using a 14-inch Benelli paired with the Victra, I got to the point where the close-range scenes in the movie No Country seemed very plausible. Starting with an SBS makes sense because suppressors add quite a bit of length, and you end up with something that's still reasonable if you start with an SBS. Alright, let's talk about the prototypes. 1.0. Since the names Chigurh and Friendo were already taken, the obvious name for a suppressor like this was the Garbage Rod, so that's what went on the form too. The first prototype was made from a 3-inch thin-walled aluminum tube with 3-inch aluminum solid round stock hockey pucks used on each end for caps. For baffles, I stacked stainless steel funnels cut to fit. I mounted the suppressor using the 7/8 by 24 threads, so I could either mount using the Victra adapter or simply thread onto the factory Benelli barrel. Commercial shotgun suppressors use funnels to keep the shot cup together as it passes between baffles, so I kept this design aspect. My first version weighed about 3 pounds and was noticeably heavy, but it was not too heavy for Chigurh to hypothetically blast some fools in his Hollywood movie scenes. While it'd be best to use a lathe to cut your threads due to the better precision it allows, it's less likely that a nomadic movie hitman had access to that type of thing, so it would be possible to make this design using a drill press and maybe some kind of jig. The performance of the handmade suppressor was just as good as a factory-built one, with the main difference being weight and longevity. Average lifespan for my baffle stacks in the 1.0 configuration was 25, maybe a bit more, maybe as much as 50 rounds, with a mix of shot and slug. With repeated testing, it became clear that gas pressure was compressing the baffle stack to the point that the gap between barrel and the first baffle became too great, and then the shot cup degraded and began to shred the baffles. Eventually, the baffles compressed down into a deranged monocore, and I ended up with a baffle strike on the end cap. These first prototypes were so short-lived that I ended up mounting the end caps using screws that weren't even properly threaded, and it ended up like something from Frankenstein's neck. Problems aside, this first prototype would have been enough for Chigurh to smoke some poor fools and then get out of town. Longevity of a suppressor probably matters less to a movie villain who would likely want to destroy the evidence after completing the mission anyway. Let's talk about 1.5. If you start getting a lathe involved, you can manage to shave off over a pound of weight compared to the original 1.0 design, getting close-ish to the weight of a factory suppressor. Half of the weight came off from turning down the 3-inch aluminum tubing to around 16 gauges of thickness, and the other half of the weight came from making lightning cuts in the end cap pucks. At this point, the only downsides to the Garbage Rod 12 versus a factory suppressor were that my baffles degraded, and the fact that the suppressor's large diameter made aiming more difficult at first.
Call it, friendo.
However, inside 25 yards, I had no problem point shooting with this design, meaning that an experienced movie assassin could have easily used this design to make short work of his mission. With a little bit of practice, you can get on steel with slugs at 50 yards, so it's something that you can train around, honestly. Even still, the version 1.5 of the Garbage Rod 12 was here for a good time and not a long time. The pressure of each shot compressed the baffles into each other, creating too large of an air gap, leading to baffle strikes. Version 1.9. With weight managed in the 1.5 iteration, I turned my attention to keeping my baffle stack from compressing. In the movie, Chigurh could have solved this by stacking funnels with canning lids or something similar in between so that the funnels would not flatten into each other. I was also curious how much of the damage was due to pressure and how much was from shot cups losing their payload inside the can. So to test this, and also just for fun, I ran quite a bit of ammo through 4570 government builds using this suppressor. What I found was that I got some settling of my baffle stack, but not nearly as much as before. On the guide gun version, the 1.9 performed very well, with noise being similar to a subsonic 300 blackout from an AR suppressed. This is especially interesting because these baffles are optimized for the 70-ish caliber 12-gauge payloads, which is not ideal for 45 caliber bullets, and also the baffle shape is not ideal for maximum sound suppression because it's made to deal with shot cups. Even still, I was very happy with the results on the 4570 test. The LHC, or the Ladies' Home Companion, is also chambered in 4570 Government, and predictably, it performed terribly. But it did look so cool doing it. The cylinder gap was so large that barrel pressure was almost zero, and I ended up with a ton of unburned powder everywhere. During the infamous soda bottle shootout, I used factory supersonic 4570 ammo, but even with that, the results were very poor. I actually found a 4570 slug stuck in one of the bottles, meaning that it had lost so much power that it couldn't even reliably pass through a soda bottle. The street sweeper was more for fun and for the vibes, but it was very interesting. As for improved longevity in the prototype version 1.9, I went from about 25 rounds of life expectancy up to about 100, maybe a bit more. Okay, let's talk about the 2.0 series. The 2.0 series of the Garbage Rod prototype is a flow-through design that gets very close to the Victra in terms of weight and performance, but I feel like Chigure's suppressor should be even quieter due to its larger volume and the professionalism that his character portrayed in the film. The 2.0 flow-through version does away with baffle stacks completely, so it's quite a bit more reliable. After running a case of ammo or more through it, it shows zero signs of wear. This means that longevity has been improved by at least 10x, if not indefinitely. The 2.0 does away with the ugly lateral mounting screws, instead using threaded rod to secure end caps longitudinally, which are located in the tube using an inset. In the future, the prototype version 3.0 will be a hybrid of baffle and flow-through design, and if it works, it could actually be a commercially viable product at some point that could, and I believe should be, actually quieter than other suppressors on the market. Conclusion. There's still a lot of work left to make this suppressor durable enough for commercial sales. But so far, we've learned that it is possible and plausible that a character like Chigurh could have built and used an improvised shotgun silencer made from basic, readily available supplies. Even though I'm still testing the 2.0 version, I'm already designing the 3.0, which will be a hybrid, flow-through baffle design that I'll feature in future videos. I also have some ballistics gel, so in a future episode, we'll be testing some subsonic and various shotgun shells to see how effective they'd be on target, as well as how quiet we can make them. 1 Kings 20:11. King Ahab answered, "Tell Ben-Hadad that the man who puts on his armor should not boast as much as the man who lives long enough to take it off." Thank you.